Hey, good afternoon. I'm Heather Sullivan, your host of Sullivan Smart Sense. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate you being with us. Hope you had a chance to maybe grab a snack or some lunch and have a moment to sit down and join us. As you know, every Tuesday we meet right here. I pick a different topic to help you save money. We're trying to help you through this really high period of inflation. And today we got even more bad news. I'm sure you've heard it. 8.5%. That is the point of inflation, the CPI index that we hit in March, 8.5% higher. So again, that is now even the highest amount of inflation we have seen in 40 years. And I know that that is making things really hard for so many people, so many families just trying to make ends meet. So we pick a different topic every week. We sit down, I bring in my favorite experts on each topic to talk about ways to save money in that area. Today, we are going to tackle insurance because it's actually a sizable part of our budgets every month, those premiums. So we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about how to save on auto insurance, how to save on homeowners and renters insurance, and we're going to talk about flood insurance. We know just recently, April 1, a lot of people started seeing their flood insurance premiums go up. And of course, we've been seeing increases in auto insurance because our cars are worth more and everybody's back on the road. So please join me in welcoming Rich Johnson with the Insurance Council of Texas. Thanks so much for being with us.
Absolutely, Heather. Happy to be here. Always good to talk to you.
Thank you. Well, I imagine you get asked this all the time, how to cut down on insurance costs. It seems to be the biggest topic everybody's talking about in the insurance world for consumers.
Yeah, for sure. We're over the last couple of years and really over the last 2 years, but even prior to that, we've been seeing this increase in costs, but it goes along with everything else. So we've just talked about, you just mentioned inflation earlier today. We're looking at the cost of, roofing and plywood and drywall, copper wiring, everything that goes into building a home, not even to get into the cost of labor of building or replacing that home. So everything right now is increasing on the home side. And then we talk about on the auto side, used cars right now are at record highs as far as costs go. There's a backlog with new vehicles with shortage in microchips. And if we look at all those safety features that we love to have on our vehicle, whether it's backup cameras or, all the different kinds of sensors that are now in a bumper. A fender bender is no longer just a fender bender. It's a camera, it's a sensor, it's, plastic, different kinds of plastic and amalgams of plastics that go into your bumper. So it's just a different world.
Yeah, it is, and it's even with the efforts that they're making to try and reduce inflation. I don't know that we're ever going to see things go back to the way that they were. So we need to figure out how to make things work. So thank you so much for joining us on that. Let's dive right into it. And for our viewers watching, by the way, if you have a question, just write it in the comments below, and we will try and answer your questions for you. But let's begin with auto insurance because a lot of people want to try and find ways to cut that cost down. So what would you say are some of the bigger tips to try and reduce your auto insurance rates?
The biggest tip is shop. If you see your rates going up and maybe you're looking at it and you're like, wow, that was even a bigger increase than last year, the year before. Texas, we are very fortunate. We have dozens of companies that do business here that write auto insurance. Shop around. If you whether you call your insurance company and talk to them about it, call another insurance company, get an agent. Agents are great. They can shop different companies to find the best policy and the best rates that might fit your pocketbook. The Texas Department of Insurance has a great website. It's helpinsure.com. And you can go on there and shop around and kind of plug in the different things that you can, that may fit your needs into that website and help you reduce costs. A couple other things, look at your deductibles. Maybe you can raise your deductibles a little bit. But make sure that it's not so much that you're going to be paying so much out of cost or out of pocket after that accident that you can't afford it. So that's kind of striking a balance between saving monthly or saving every 6 months versus saving, something going so high that you can't afford it should the worst happen and you have to total out your vehicle or something like that. So
Yeah.
look at different things like that. And look at your coverages. Talk to your insurance professional. Maybe you have an older car that, although, used car vehicles or used car prices right now are at a record high, but maybe you have an older vehicle that maybe doesn't need that full coverage on it, or you have, some limits on it that might be a little higher than what they should be. But again, talk to your insurance agent or your insurance professional to make sure you have the right policy for you.
I was just showing everybody, folks, by the way, that website that Rich was just talking about is helpinsure.com.
Yep.
And that we'll talk about it again, because you can look at both auto insurance and homeowners insurance and compare different plans and see what, you might be able to get. It's a really great tool.
Yeah. And it's put out by the Texas Department of Insurance. It's not, insurance companies. It's not Insurance Council of Texas. So it's a really good consumer site that's pretty unbiased and has great information on it.
Absolutely. One of the things that we're seeing become more popular, and I think it's because drivers are becoming a little more comfortable with it, but that is the use of telematics, allowing insurance companies to put a device basically to track your driving, but it can really help to cut down people's costs.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at your mileage. So that's the thing, the miles driven. It'll, depending on what device you're using, it could be an app on your phone that's just, everybody has their phone out kind of for their navigation or whatever it might be these days. So it could be tracking your driving that way, or there's a little plug-in that they can put in your car. And it'll test everything from, are you somebody that, guns it at the stop sign and tries to beat everybody off the line?
That's me right there.
Are you a hard breaker? Do you stop short a lot? All those things are kind of go into that, and it is. And so as long as you're comfortable with that, and having your insurance company have that information, it can be a great way to save a few bucks, especially if you're I think if you're a low mileage and a real safe driver, it can be a real advantage to you.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk a little bit about credit score, because I think a lot of people don't know that your auto insurance rates are impacted by your credit score. So can you talk a little bit about that, and maybe just some tips on how to improve that to get a better auto insurance rate?
Yeah, it is a factor. There are so many factors that go into risk, and that's what we're looking at with insurance policies. An insurance company looks at somebody, looks at where you live, looks at what's going on in your area, and so there are, for the most part, most companies, there is a component where insurance score does come into effect, and so the higher, and it's been proven. It's a good predictor of risk, and those with a little bit better credit scores have been proven to be less risk in getting into accidents, speeding, that type of thing. And it's just one of the many factors that go into predicting risk for policyholders. So anything you can do, whether you have get credit. I mean, everybody talks about that. We don't want to overuse it, but it's always just good to have, some credit in case the worst happens and you need to, take out a loan, but everybody has a mortgage or a car payment. And all those, pay your bills on time. That usually impacts your credit score as well. So all those things kind of come into effect, but it does have an impact. It's a topic right now that a lot of states are looking at. And kind of re-looking at and making sure that it is an accurate predictor of risk. And from an insurance standpoint, we believe it is.
Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, it is. So
right.
Yeah, you want to look at that. And by the way, folks, so all three of the credit bureaus are letting people continue to check their credit for free weekly through the end of the year. They all were doing it sort of by order before, but now they have agreed just on themselves. They're going to keep letting people do that weekly for free. So check your credit while you can, annualcreditreport.com. One more thing about auto insurance, because this is a biggie for families. Sometimes my signal goes away. When you have a new when you have a new teen driver,
Oof, yeah.
that can really start driving up those auto insurance rates. Any advice for all the parents cringing out there?
Man, I need the advice. I have a 15-year-old that just got his permit a couple months ago, and we're going through that process right now. So, good student discount, get their grades up. A lot of insurance companies will offer a discount for that. Have them take a defensive driving course, and this goes for anybody really, whether you're a teen or a parent or anybody. If you take a defensive driving course, check with your insurance company. Sometimes they'll give you a little bit of a discount for that. So look into any of those discounts that you can have, and look at the cars that you're putting your kids in. There are some cars that are better than others. My son was literally showing me, "Hey, Dad, look at this." It was like a 1998 Porsche. It's in the budget that you gave me, and I'm like, "It's still a Porsche, though. I can only imagine what my insurance." And actually, we had this exact conversation of how the type of car that you choose can impact your insurance rates. We were having that on the way home from school yesterday, and so it's even in my life. But yeah, look at those good student discounts or any other discounts that you may be able to get with a student driver. So
okay, yeah, great advice. Okay, let's move on to homeowners and renters insurance. Let me just ask you, just to start, what do you think are some of the big ways people might try to reduce some of those premiums?
Yeah, I think, again, going back to those deductibles, looking at your deductibles a little bit, making sure that, you may be able to save on your homeowner's insurance by lowering some of your liability costs. If you go and get an umbrella policy, I think that's something that a lot of people don't talk about. They're relatively inexpensive, and you may save on that homeowner's insurance, and it may make up for costs and getting that umbrella insurance, which kind of, expands the amount of money that's out there that you have, in case, let's say you're in a car accident or somebody, falls on your property, or gets hurt on your property, and it exceeds the liability limits that are in your homeowner's insurance policy. And just making sure that you have the right coverages, going through your policy with your insurance professional. They should really be able to walk you through it to ensure that you can have those costs. But I think the biggest thing is just deductibles and making sure you have the right coverage on homes. And you mentioned renters insurance. Big thing was the renters insurance. Get it. There are a lot of people out there that, homeowners insurance, or, most people have to have it, especially if you have a mortgage, which most of us do. So you kind of have it, and it's part of your mortgage, and you don't think about it a whole lot. But if you're renting, make sure you get that renter's policy, because yes, the structure is covered by insurance by whoever your landlord is for the most part, but it's all your personal items that are inside. And there's usually some really cool features that renters insurance covers that maybe a homeowner's policy doesn't. Some policies out there include flood insurance, which we can talk about later, or flood coverage, I should say, not flood insurance. And then electronic, different electronic device coverage. And it also covers some things that can happen to your car as well. A lot of policies offer that, where it kind of creates this halo around where you're living, where it would cover some of the things taken out of your car as well. So renters insurance is again relatively inexpensive. You can get great policies out there that have just some added peace of mind that homeowners policies don't even have.
Yeah, I want to underscore that, because when I was younger and renting, and when I started out, I didn't have renters insurance. And when I was going over my auto insurance policy with my insurance agent, he said, you really should have renters, because one, it's great coverage, and it was like $10 a month. He's like,
Right, yeah.
It's worth it, because the price for renters insurance is so low, and you get good coverage, it's peace of mind, and if you have a problem, you're covered.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, think about, with an apartment building, there's so many pipes going through.
Mm-hmm.
We had the big storm
We saw that
this
last
winter,
year.
yeah, exactly. These burst pipe. Think about all the items, and a lot of people think, oh, I'm just renting. I don't own a lot. But if you start looking around your house and you got a TV, a couple of couches, it can add up, and that's something that you don't want to be paying out of pocket for should the worst happen.
Yeah. What are some things that we can do to our homes that would make the home, I guess, safer and less of a risk for different hazards that would help to cut down. Did I cut out?
Yep. Did you end with cut down?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. What are things we can do to our homes to try and cut down our insurance costs?
Yeah, in Houston, the big thing is flood mitigation. Are there things that you can do, around your home? They actually have some kind of cool technology and innovations that are out there, that can help your home from flooding. They have different things, wraps that you can put around the base of your home, things like that. Wind, Florida has some actually pretty cool laws and mitigation factors with things like strapping in your water heater. They have roof tie downs, just different technologies and innovations that you can do to make your home more resilient to some of these perils. And sometimes wildfire can affect. We have them definitely here in Texas. If you go to the National Fire Protection Agency or firewise.org, they have some great tips on how to mitigate your home and creating that what they call a defensible space around your home with certain kinds of shrubs and keeping firewood away from your home, different materials that you can build decks out of, and they have some really good ideas on how to kind of hardscape your home to be able to mitigate from wildfire, which actually can mitigate from some other things like heavy rains and downpours and things like that. So.
Yeah. And you might want to rethink the trampoline in the backyard, right?
Yeah. I mean, boy, anything, especially, when we get these, even if it's not a tornado or a hurricane, you get a 30, 40 mile an hour wind. And those trampolines can, or anything, whether it's lawn furniture or your barbecue, can take flight and cause a lot of damage. So, trampolines in general, from an insurance risk standpoint, things like swimming pools and trampolines, those are always things that your insurance adjuster and your underwriter with your insurance company are going to look at, when they're rating your home on what your policy is going to be. So.
I got a question here from Veronica. She said she's never heard of umbrella insurance. So you mentioned that a little earlier. Can we just talk a little bit about what exactly is umbrella insurance?
Yeah, insurance is kind of insurance, or umbrella insurance is kind of insurance for your insurance. So what it will do is add additional coverage for your family or whoever you have covered. And it's really that liability coverage. So it's something, let's say you were found responsible during a car accident and somebody's medical bills maybe exceed the limits of your automobile policy, then your umbrella policy would kick in. And so let's say you have $500,000 or $300,000 worth of coverage on liability. Then if you have $1 million umbrella policy, then you have that additional $1 million on top of that. In case the worst happens. It's really, like I said, it's just insurance for your insurance. Same thing with your home. You have somebody, slip and fall, a family member or a friend or, dog bite. Something happens at your home that you're found responsible for, and those medical bills or, let's say the worst really happens and they sue you, things like that, like your umbrella policy will take care of that and kick in.
Great question, Veronica. Thanks so much. And everybody watching, just keep those questions coming. We'll answer them here while we're still on the air. Let's move on now to flood insurance, because as I was mentioning earlier, April 1, there was kind of just sort of a change in the way flood insurance rates were calculated a little bit. And so some people got a little less, but most people got a little more.
Yeah.
And that increase is anywhere from maybe $10 a month to $100 or a couple hundred, depending on your level of risk. One of the things I think that's really helping to change the flood marketplace is there are now private insurance companies that offer it in addition to FEMA, right?
Yeah, correct. So yeah, most flood policies you can purchase them through, your insurance company, but they are, while they're sold by an insurance company, they're actually backed and paid for by the federal government. It's through FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and it's through the National Flood Insurance Program, or NFIP. And there are some, it's good coverage. We look at, and sometimes you're required to have it depending on where you live. But it's just, for the most part, it is expensive, and it just is that added peace of mind because flooding is not covered by typical homeowners policies.
Yes.
So you need kind of that extra coverage on top of that. There were April 1st, there were changes. FEMA, the federal government, in an effort to make the program solvent and actually have money and be able to, be a little bit more self-sustaining, they did reassess their risk. We talked about risk before when it comes to individuals. FEMA started looking at their maps and their floodplains and kind of reassessing and re-looking at their risk and the program's risk, and kind of came up with, I think they called it Risk 2.0 is the new program, to really reassess where everybody was living and what those costs were. So check with your insurance agent or check out the NFIP website to see what a policy might be. There's some things in there. With a flood insurance policy, there's a 30-day waiting period that you should think about. So you can't just call today and have it tomorrow. So, hurricane season is right around the corner. They just said we're going to actually have an active Atlantic hurricane season this year, probably about they're predicting 19 or 20 named storms, and maybe 13 or 14 will hit the United States. So we know that they're coming and it's going to be active. So that starts June 1st. So you got till May 1st to call and get that flood policy. And the other thing is look at the limits. There's some limits on how much coverage an NFIP policy will have as well. And sorry, another thing is you're right. There are now private companies that are writing it. So go ahead and you can kind of Google the companies that are searching or that are doing that, and you could find a private policy as well as the FEMA policy.
Yeah, I've got a great comment from Damien talking about if you live in Houston, it's a city that floods. You should have flood insurance. And were you here in 2017? It was before I moved to Houston, but of course we all remember what Harvey did. And
Yep.
Really, it pointed out to a lot of people that they may not have thought they needed flood insurance before, but they ended up flooding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly. And I was here. I actually worked for an insurance company and deployed several times to Houston to, assess the damage and kind of do what I'm doing here, talking to the local media on tips and advice. And that was a weird storm. It was kind of two storms in one. We had this big wind event on the coast, and then it kind of went back out to the Gulf and became a rain event and really just soaked the area. And, it's not just hurricanes you got to think about with flooding. It's any kind of storm. You could have, some backups, or, you could be in new construction, up the hill. They all of a sudden cleared the hill. And now, that now opens up your neighborhood to more flooding than maybe it was before. So it's an inexpensive policy for the most part. And just is added peace of mind. And it's just a good policy to have. So
I think some people wonder, can they just get it for hurricane season and then not pay for it through the rest of the year? What are your thoughts on that? Is that a way, or is that generally not an accepted practice?
I'm not really sure on that, actually. I wouldn't suggest it just because, there's hurricane season, but there are other things that could cause flooding. We've had winter events now. If we have snow melt, things like that can cause flooding that we don't normally think about. And just because it's not hurricane season doesn't mean we can't get torrential downpours here in Texas. So,
yeah. Well, if you could just touch a little bit on because a couple things people might look at is one, an elevation certificate. Or if they have if they're in a community that has a community rating system, how those things might help.
That's actually something that I don't know a whole lot about. So I don't know if I could cover that. Again, I think it's one of those things where if your community is in an area like that, check with your insurance professional and see how that's gonna impact you. That's always the best advice. There's some other things that you can get certified in as well. Again, going back to Firewise, they do a certification program as well where an HOA or a neighborhood can get together and get certified as Firewise, meaning that neighborhood has taken some steps to harden their homes and mitigate against wildfires. And there's actually a couple insurance companies out there that will give you up to maybe a 10 or 15% discount if you live in one of those communities. So as far as the elevation certificates and things like that, I'm not really familiar with that. So.
Okay, but I would know it's something for people they can look into. That might be one way of reducing their premiums. Let's just talk a little bit more about helpinsure.com before we go. And I'm going to show again a picture of that website. But again, this is a great place people can turn to get of their different auto insurance plans as well as homeowners plans, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is brought to you by the Texas Department of Insurance, which is a government agency. And they've put together kind of this aggregator website that you can go to and really click through, the things that are, in your lifestyle, where you live, I think it even goes all the way down to your address, and really gets a policy that'll meet your needs. And it's just a good way, to just check to make sure that you're paying what you should be paying. And just to, it's just great information on how to shop for insurance in general. So,
yeah, it's a really good tool. I always recommend people go to it. Well, Rich, thanks so much for being with us. I think you've really helped to shed a lot of light and hopefully helped a lot of people out there kind of take a look at their policies. And I think you hit it. The first thing you said is the key is to shop around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Periodically. Yeah.
Yeah. Go to insure.com, or, there's a couple aggregator site, what they call aggregator sites out there, where, you can really check out what other insurance companies are offering as far as rates, or just do the groundwork yourself and just get on the phone and start calling them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks so much for being with us. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Heather. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.
You bet. And thank you everyone for joining us. We had a really good audience today. So I hope that we answered some of your questions and gave you some ideas, some things to look at to cut down your auto insurance rates, your homeowners or renters insurance rates, and also those flood insurance rates. You can always go to Sullivan's Smart Sense on fox26houston.com. I'm always putting articles on there about insurance and all different kinds of ways to save money on virtually everything. So just keep checking in there. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to send them to me, and we will, of course, pick up those topics for you as well. We will see you back here next Tuesday. We have Gas Buddy. We're going to talk about how to save money on gas. I'll show you some of the tricks of the trade, and also how the Gas Buddy app can really help you cut down some of your costs, and a new payment feature they have that cuts down your cost as well. So join us again next Tuesday. Thanks for being with us today, and we'll see you next time.